How's it going, guys? This is Marc at Sound Theory Studio, and I got a request from a commenter on the Peavey Vypyr VIP 2 video saying that they had bought the amp and were having a lot of trouble figuring out how to really use it, and totally understandable because it is kind of complicated. And if you watched my review, one thing I did say that I didn't like about it is I don't think it's especially user-friendly. It's kind of hard to figure out how everything works. So I'm just going to do a quick tutorial, and can't go over all the options because there would just be too many, but I can give you a nice starter just to get used to the amp and how to dial in a pretty good tone. So first, starting here, you've got instrument type. Now, basically, you want to think of this as 4 different effects banks. So not only are you going to select the instrument type, so I have an electric guitar plugged in right now, so I have electric 1 highlighted. But also, if you click on A, you get 4 different colors. So each of those is a different preset effect. And it comes with factory installed presets. You know, the ones I have on there right now are ones that I came up with myself. So if you scroll through these, you'll get a little bit of each. There we go. So those are just a few effects that I'd come up with. So basically what you want to do is think of each of those 4 selections as different effects patch banks. And they're going to have, I believe, 4 each. So there's 2 dedicated to electric guitar, which makes sense because that's the majority of what you'll be plugging into this. And then 1 for acoustic and 1 for bass. So you can overwrite the preset effects and put in your own, or you can just leave it as is with the factory defaults. So the next knob is going to be selecting instrument and stomp boxes. Now this is where it gets a little confusing because it's kind of like you already selected the instrument here. So what's the difference here? So on the knob, you're not selecting the instrument that you're playing, you're selecting the instrument that you'd like to sound like. So for instance, if I go to where it says 12 string / 7 string, should sound like a 7 string now. Right? So my guitar isn't tuned that low, it's just emulating a 7 string guitar. Now if I click on it, right, 7 string still, but then if I rotate the knob again, it turns red. Now we should have a 12 string. Right? So basically that's how that's going to work. Now, you know, obviously you'll want to consult the manual if you have it to see what each of these instruments is and what it's referring to. There's all kinds of things like sitar and keyboard, synthesizer, things like that. Then the right side of this knob is going to be your stomp boxes. So you can see things like fuzz and compression and things like that. And it just works the same way all the way around. You know, one thing that's very confusing about this amp, at least I think, is that pretty much all of these knobs can be clicked in like a button. And then over here you can see it changed the EQ knobs and the pre-gain and post-gain knobs, and now they mean a totally different thing. Now they are going to be the effect options for the stomp box you selected or the instrument. And that makes things a little weird. So for instance, if you selected like a, I don't know, like a wah pedal or a fuzz pedal, and then clicked the instrument stomp button, what's going to happen is now over here, the EQ knobs have changed to the stomp boxes effect knobs so that you can mess around with the stomp box effects. So that is very confusing, and it's kind of hard to say what each of those knobs is now going to do. In a way, you kind of have to just mess with it and see. P1 and P2 are going to affect the stomp box directly. You do have delay and delay level here. It is labeled, so these two are going to now change the delay effect, and in reverb level all the way at the end. So it's It's not set up real well, but that's kind of how it works, and you are going to just have to play with it until you get used to it, I think. So when you click this again, everything goes back to normal. Now these knobs are doing EQ, pre-gain, post-gain, just like they say. So you engage and disengage that here with the instrument stomp button. Now, on amplifiers, this is a little more straightforward. So going around the knob, you can see things like Buddha, 6505, the XXX, Classic, etc. So these are just different amps. Like, so say I want a 6505. Now what happens here is if you push the button, you can see right now the light is indicated orange. Now it's red, now it's green. Let's go to XXX and same deal. The way you want to think about this is when XXX is highlighted, you're using a XXX amp, basically, an emulation. And this is the clean tone if it's green. If you want to switch to the channel 2 of the XXX, which is a little dirtier, you click it, you get the orange light. That means it's channel 2. Click it again to the red light. Now it's channel 3 with the most gain. Oh, and I still have 12 string on, so I'll just go up to bypass on that. There we go. All right. So if I change to the clean channel on XXX, there we go. All right, so that part is pretty straightforward. There are some bass and acoustic options on there. Again, it's, you know, a lot of this is just going to be messing around with it, but at least that should give you a pretty good idea of how those how that option works. Now under effects, again, you've got things like flanger, compression. These aren't stomp boxes emulation so much as like just true effects. And again, push to edit changes the EQs over here. Again, delay level, reverb. P1 and P2 will actually affect the effect itself. And it's going to change things like, well, I don't know. I suppose if you have like a flanger on or a reverse or anything like that, you know, it's going to change things like the amount of the effect, the level of wave, you know, and like in a flanger or you know, delay, it might affect like, well, I guess delay wouldn't be one, but phaser, you know, might affect the depth of that effect. So it's a bit of trial and error. But just remember, after you select whatever effect you want, then you click the knob to change these to the actual effect editing, and then click it again to put it back to just the regular old EQ, pre-gain and post-gain. Okay, so then next up is the pre-gain. Of course, this is just kind of like the gain knob on an amp. So when it's down nice and clean, turn all the way up. Gets a little bit dirtier, right? So I'm going to bypass the effect. Let's go to the XXX dirty channel. Okay, pre-gain all the way up, you get lots of dirty sound. Pre-gain pretty much all the way down, much cleaner. The low, mids, and highs are pretty self-explanatory. That's just going to be your straight EQ. The post-gain, think of the post-gain as a volume knob, only it's a volume knob for this particular effects patch. So for instance, if you wanted a clean channel, well, like a clean tone, you could set that up and save it, have the post gain be, I don't know, maybe around 12 o'clock, right? And then what you could do is save that and then go to like a lead channel, set that up, and then have the post gain for that one be just a little higher so that when you switch to leads, you get that little bit of volume boost. So again, post gain is like volume knob only for each specific preset. And when you save your preset, the post gain setting, the volume setting will be saved with it. And then finally, all the way to the right is the master volume knob. That knob controls the overall volume for all patches at once. So if master volume's at 0, there's no sound. If it's all the way up, it's going to be super loud. And it affects everything at the same time, your overall volume, in other words. So that's kind of a brief, really quick run through of how this works. Hopefully that's helpful. Probably the best advice I can give you too is you can see right here the USB port. If you plug a USB cable from there into your computer and then download the free Vypyr Edit software from Peavey, it gives you an interface on your computer to change all these effects. And the software is much, much easier to use than the amp itself, and I would highly recommend looking into that. I think it'll save you a lot of time and some headaches and help you understand how the amp works. So check that out. And I also did a video, I'll put a link to it, where I did talk about the Vypyr Edit software and some things I liked about it. So yeah, there you go. Well, thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Hope that helped. And we'll talk to you soon. Take care.